Longest Take podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Longest Take podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by Joe Lam. He's an award-winning producer, director, and owner of Shining Light Pictures, founded in 2006. His latest short film, Fugitive Zero, has garnered around 56 awards, and his upcoming feature film release, the horror flick The Fetus, is set to release in just a couple months. Please welcome Joe to today's episode. All right, so first things first, what are your top 5 favorite movies?
Top 5 favorite movies. Aliens. I've got Akira Kurosawa, which is Seven Samurai. I've got Gattaca. And then there's Terminator 2. And my last one is it's kind of out of left field, but it's The Family Man.
The Family Man, who's in that one?
And Nicolas Cage.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, I thought
yeah,
that was
it's one of those feel good ones. Whenever it's on, I just I'm hooked, and I think that's it. So, yeah,
that's awesome. Akira Kurosawa, I'm such a big fan too. I think if I were Seven Samurai is amazing, and it's there are so many movies like The Magnificent Seven that they follow that template literally, and then there's other movies that you get that dysfunctional group to stand together and fight, like that all stems from, I think, Seven Samurai. But Ikiru, I think, is my favorite of Akira Kurosawa.
Oh,
Beautiful
interesting.
movie.
Very deep character study of that.
Yeah, I love it. But he's up there with like Bergman and Tarkovsky, I think, when it comes to the, I guess you could call it classic cinema or whatever, but yeah, Akira Kurosawa is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love Bergman. The Virgin Spring, oh my god, jeez.
Yeah. If I somewhere behind me, I got the Seventh Seal, and then I have one of those other Criterion. Criterion is amazing. I'm sure you're familiar if you like Bergman and Kurosawa, but I try to get everything that they put out there, especially the 4Ks now. I love those. I love those transfers. They look so good. But awesome list there. Aliens and Terminator. I mean, those go hand in hand. Usually when someone names one, got to name the other. There's something about them that it's great to have those too.
Yeah. Well, James Cameron's my favorite director all time. It's just
Are you I didn't even think about that. Aliens, both directed by James Cameron, but how are you on the Avatar movies so far?
I enjoy them. It's I don't know. It's a little strange to me. Like they're great stories. Like he hits all the beats. But at the same time, it's not as deep as his other ones. It's not as deep and hard hitting, like the raw emotions is not as, it doesn't go down as far into the well, so to speak. But they're really enjoyable and they're exciting to watch, so I can't complain. I mean, I would have rather had him do a true representation of Battle Angel Alita.
Oh yeah,
and pass it off to, I think, Robert Rodriguez. That, to me, if he did that, I would have taken one of those over all the avatars. I love that that character, that world. I mean, I wish he would have done it true to his style. Because Rodriguez, the way he did it was a little, kind of Disney-fied, I feel. So
yeah, I really enjoyed Alita, but I mean, to your point, James Cameron was passionate about it, but if he would have done it himself, because the Avatar movies are great, but they're technical experiments in a sense. He's doing it and he's trying to do the best technology capturing all this stuff. But with Battle Angel, it would have had to have been a character study, and that would have just, I think, by default made it deeper, and it would have really spoken to his strengths. So I completely agree with you with that.
Well, my understanding is him doing the Avatar series of movies is he wants to promote environmentalism, because he said I can make a documentary and it'll reach a few 100,000 people, but if I make a film on this subject, it's going to reach into the millions and millions, tens of millions, whatever. And that's why he does it. It's for the environment. So, which I definitely respect too. So
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Maybe as he makes them, because I mean, even with The Way of Water, you do get a little more character moments with the family dynamic, right? So just maybe as he goes on, because he wants to make a bunch of these, we'll get a little bit more of that raw, I guess, deep character work, or we can only hope, right?
Yeah, like I can watch Aliens and Terminator 2 again and again, just constantly, but I can't watch the Avatar movies again. It's just
yeah, I feel you on that one. So before we get into like your projects and everything, you seem partial to sci-fi and horror. What really, and I could already kind of tell based on some of your favorites there, but what inspires you to pursue either one of those genres?
I mean, the funny thing is, horror, in terms of horror, I've never directed a horror short film before. Before doing my first horror comedy feature. So it's interesting, and part of it is because the producer that I met said, like, I can't back you for this like $3 to $5 million action thriller that you want to do. Let's start off with a lower budget thing first, so you get that under your belt, and that's why we did horror. So, but in terms of my interest in it, yeah, it's a lot of body horror, which I write about in my new book that's coming out, that's based on the making of the movie. And I love things like The Fly, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Thing. It's those movies. It's like, because you can't escape the supernatural or evil entity because it's inside of you. It's become a part of you. And in The Fly, the guy embraces it even, and it's just like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like literally when they get transformed into the new being, right? They're like, join us. It's way better. And they're like, it's like, oh my God, right? Like, but how do you escape that? Or The Thing, which is like, you don't want to be the thing, but it's just so crazy what they have to go through. They have to go attack and kill their friends who are transforming into this evil entity. That's what fascinates me, not the guy with the knife that's chasing after, because you can escape, run away, but if it's inside you, it's a part of you, that to me freaks me out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you named probably some of the best body horror, or at least I'd say body assimilation movies, where it's like they're, it's from the inside. And I always thought that's why, like, even possession movies, there's an element of kind of what you're talking about in something like The Exorcist, where it's not an external threat, like it's in here. So how do you grapple with that? So I think that's definitely fascinating, and it makes me even more eager to check out The Fetus, because it's, to my understanding, that that's kind of what the conflict is there. It's she's grappling with what's growing inside of her, right?
Yeah. And how do you deal with that? Do you accept it? Do you reject it? And if you do reject it and you find out it's life threatening, are you going to take the risk?
Right.
Or do you see it through and have this thing born?
Yeah, and I think that's such a compelling question to ask, and I think it really sets the stakes up for the characters, which is really great to do. And on the sci-fi side of things, so I know Fugitive Zero, which I think I ask about a little later, is it's a sci-fi short that you did. What interests you about sci-fi as a genre?
I love the play on humanity versus technology. And my understanding, and this is from an author that I met once, He's the author of the book series Conversations with God. And in there, he talks about, if our spirituality doesn't keep pace with our level of technological advancements, we could destroy ourselves. And so I like how James Cameron deals with that aspect, and he gives warnings. He gave a warning about, AI and robotics in Terminator 2. And he gave a warning in Aliens as well regarding this corporate greed to bring back this xenomorph that is dangerous to humans, and that they want to use it as a bioweapon. But if it gets out of hand, it's all of humanity is lost. So that to me is what fascinates me of how, as a filmmaker, that I want to be able to use in terms of science fiction, that play of humanity versus technology, or the integration of it as well. There are ways to integrate it so it is a healthy fusion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a great answer, because when it comes to sci-fi, the best thing about it, whether it's literature or the movies, it's always the philosophical question. Like, every great sci-fi property is always, it's positing something about whether it is technology or it's our desire to explore other places. It's almost always boiling down to the hubris of mankind, and how that's either going to kill us or we're going to learn to adapt to it. And I feel like every great sci-fi writer is like grappling with that idea. Are we going to make this a happy ending where we learn to either defeat or coexist, or is this going to be a darker ending where we succumb to it and, kind of like what James Cameron, it's a warning to other people. But when it comes to Fugitive Zero, it reminds me a little bit of The Running Man, which is topical right now because the trailer just dropped for Edgar Wright's adaptation of it. But I got a little bit of Truman Show, and the whole thing kind of was reminiscent of Philip K. Dick, who is magnificent at writing these types of sci-fi stories. Tell me a little bit about how you came to write that project in particular, what the award cycle was for the script, the short, and whether we should expect a feature-length version of that.
The intention of me directing Fugitive Zero as a 15-minute short was to raise the financing for the feature film version. However, even though it did well, we played in a lot of film festivals. Most of them we won awards, so we took home 56 awards for it. That really validated my ability as a director to say, okay, I'm ready for a feature now. And only that, just when it played to audiences, I could tell that they were hooked. I had them from beginning to end, which was my intention, to get to that level as a director. But I'm not going to be making that as a feature anymore, because I came upon a better story. And that's why, this story was about an alternate version to the criminal justice system, which is, why have somebody sitting in prison for so many years, and they could have gotten better, stay the same, or they gotten worse? How do you know that unless you actually test them? Because in prison, you can learn all sorts of criminal activity, and you get out and you're worse, and you're joining gangs because you were in a gang in the prison, and the same gang is outside of prison, or were you, in the library studying and staying out of trouble, right? So I figured, what if we were to test people to make them eligible for parole, but not only that, have the person who was directly affected, which is the surviving family member of the victim, approve that parole as well, and monitor all their actions in a simulation where they're being, like I said, they're being tested all along the way. And if any of your listeners want to watch it, they can go to fugitivezero.com. So, and they can check it out. But that's why I created that film, to spark that debate. But again, I came up with to me, it's a better sci-fi story that has more action, it's even a higher concept that I believe has a better chance to get funding and in the marketplace.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you able to say anything about this concept that you came across?
Well, right now the working title is called Memory Hunter, and it takes place in the future where the worst offending criminals, rapists, pedophiles, murderers, they have their minds erased. And then go through retraining in a life reformation institute. And after 3 years, they're released back into society. They don't know what they did, but the people they affected know. And the story follows a memory detective who gets framed for murdering his wife. And he goes on the run and he downloads his dead wife's memories into his brain to find clues to catch the real killer. So that's the premise of the story.
So by memory detective, what exactly is their scope of work? Like what are they looking for, I guess, when they're a memory detective?
Well, when they catch someone to prove that they actually committed the crime, they have to dive into the person's memory and to almost relive the crime through the person's mind as their memory. And you have to be careful with it because you could alter it as well, because you're going in and you're being an observer. And it's that whole thing of, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to see it or hear it, did it actually happen? Right? And there are scientific studies where when someone is observing a scientific experiment, it alters the experiment.
Yeah, I think actually there's a study similar to that with quantum mechanics. I think it might be superposition, something like that. But yeah, I love that idea, and that is a cooler concept. As much as making a statement about the prison system and how great of a sci-fi concept is that, but this one I just feel like you're taking that not that specific idea, but you're exploring more of like criminality and sci-fi, and I think that's awesome. Have you began pre-production on this yet? Have you filmed anything for this, or is it still kind of in that writing stage?
It's in the writing stage, yeah. And I may put it on the back burner in favor of doing the Fetus 2.
Okay. Already talking about a sequel. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, based on the feedback that we've received, like very positive feedback. The number one thing people ask after a screening, like a live screening, they say, "Is there going to be a sequel?" And so I have to listen to that, and I have to make that determination. Because if I wait too long, there are just some things that if I wait too long, it won't be ideal.
And I mean, I guess on the plus side, if you were to go into the Fetus 2 and with the reception for the Fetus being so high, I guess the positive thing that could come out of this is it could hopefully provide you with more funds for this sci-fi project that you've got, that you're writing. If you could put out another thing and it could get really popular and be another hit, then you could put that towards this sci-fi project that you really want to do.
Well, the Fetus 1 has to be a hit first.
True.
Yeah. That's why I'm doing so many things to support it. Besides all the merch, the standard posters and things like that. That's where the making of book comes in, and just other merchandise that I'm working on. An art book that'll go with it that covers all the different departments in that went involved to making the movie. So just whatever we can do to get it out there, and the fans have been amazing. The ones that have seen it, and some of them who haven't even seen it are buying merch, which is amazing to me. And then we go to conventions as well. So so we've already gone to maybe like 7 or 8 conventions we've attended as vendors or sponsors. But it's tough because when people haven't seen the movie, they don't know about it yet. So I think once it releases in September, then we'll probably do more conventions, and hopefully it'll be a different outcome for us.
Yeah, I think maybe twice, or maybe it was once, but I'm out in Illinois, and I had seen at one of our conventions there was a whole booth area dedicated to the Fetus. It was a pretty cool setup too. There was
Illinois, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Wisconsin.
No, it was Illinois.
Oh, Illinois.
Yeah, I think you're. Pardon me. What were you gonna ask?
For some reason, I'm missing the cities and states. So my apologies for that.
Rosemont might have been. Rosemont.
What was the event?
Either Days of the Dead or Flashback Weekend. One of those.
Yeah, we were at one of those. Yeah. Chicago.
Yeah. Chicago would be the closest. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were actually there.
Yeah. And I remember seeing it, and I'm like, well, what is this? Oh, it's going to be a movie. When's this coming out? And I was actually at a convention just a couple weeks ago, and the social media manager for the Fetus was there. And, she was just talking to me a little bit more about the project, and doing a good job of building hype because it's making me hyped to see it.
Oh, okay. You might have been to the event when it was Days of the Dead, and I couldn't make it. And it was Evan that showed up, Evan Towle, our actor. Yeah, so that might have been it, Yeah. But if it was Flashback, then I was there. So it was one of those, in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. And really, like I said, great job with the table and everything. You're marketing the hell out of it. So I imagine that it's it's going to benefit once it comes out, because you're getting a lot of hype already for it. And speaking of hype, so you have one person of horror royalty and another person who became horror royalty, and Bill Moseley and Lauren LaVera. So I was curious, one, if there were to be, if you do make the sequel to The Fetus, would you try to reach out to either party, get them casted in it, or would you try to just go with a different set of characters?
Unfortunately, Sean, I cannot. I cannot say.
Okay, that's fair.
I cannot say. The only thing I can say is because the story's not written yet. That's why. If it goes the way that I'm thinking for the story, then yes, at least one of them. Yes.
Yeah, that's fair, and that'll still be great. And once you make a sci-fi project again, are there any sci-fi royalty characters that you'd like to get, actors that have been pivotal to the sci-fi scene that you would like to try to get into one of your projects?
I don't really think that way, because let's say I pitch this to a mid-sized studio, and they're able to have a certain level of budget, and they have requirements for cast. I have to collaborate with them. It's not me just saying I want this actor, and
right.
And if I'm going the independent route, maybe I can only raise so much money. So that limits my pool of actors. See what I mean? It's just there's a whole lot of elements that go into it, depending on who you partner with, how much funding you have. So
yeah, no, and that makes sense. Instead of wishful thinking, it's better to be more just realistic about it. What's the point of really thinking about that if you don't even know if anything like that would be a possibility? It's better to just focus on trying to get it off the ground first, right? Focus on the tangible things, before trying to think about, who you could get as a part of the project. That's fair.
Yeah, and I'll give an example, because sometimes actors, they'll just suddenly retire. I just saw recently that, this week, Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, they're both retiring.
Oh, wow.
So it's okay, so if I wrote for, either of those actors in mind, and then it's oh, they retired. So, okay, well, See what I mean? But I am focused on the story 100%. Usually when I'm writing it, and I've had to put a pause on that as well because, like I said, I'm writing the making of book. So as I'm wrapping it up, then I'm going to go back to screenwriting. So it's hard for me to do two at the same time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the making of book, you're gonna coincide that release with the Fetus, or is it gonna come out before, after? What's the release cycle gonna be like for the book?
The plan is to publish it before the book, but then send copies out to press, and see if whoever wants to write about it. So, that'll be interesting because I have a short amount of time. I reached out to like a film book publication. They said they're not taking submissions at the moment. And even if they did, I found out that it's like months and months and months to go with a book publisher because they take a long time. And then they're going to have their own process to want to do the book cover design, the formatting, proofread, all that stuff. So I'm kind of like, well, I'll do the self-published route, which I've done with my past books, which are not all film related, but I've done it before, so it's not a problem to meet the deadline. So
yeah, and I think there's a freedom to self-publishing that's always a benefit, especially like you even said, when it comes to the big publishers, it takes a long time. Literature is one of those things where you got to be really patient with it, and if you're trying to get like a larger publication to take it, you'll be waiting for a long time. So it in this day and age, though, I think it's more conducive for self-publishing. So I think there is a good benefit to that, especially when people they see how it's coinciding with the release of this project. I think that there's a lot of interest there, especially coming from an independent person. So I'm looking forward to that. I didn't know that you were writing a book with it, so I love that piece of filmmaking, the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm fascinated that you decided to write a book about it. That'll be really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm probably going to release the first chapter in a couple weeks, and just do it as something like if people go to our website, then they can just enter their email and they can get a copy of the PDF right away. So as a little teaser.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So going into the Fetus, how important are practical effects to you? What is your methodology for creating like the pivotal scare sequence? I had noted here that Alex Rojas was the leader of creating the designs, Mary Katie Engel, Isabel Isel doing makeup and prosthetics, and then you had Fernanda Collado, Daniela Galindo, Holland Mavers to do sound effects and puppeteering. Kind of long-winded question here, but just kind of, one, how important was it for you to get the practical stuff right? And really, what does it take to, build these scare sequences? Like, what are you looking for when you're putting something like this together with that team?
I appreciate you shouting out their names, because it's difficult to work in prosthetics and special makeup effects, and they don't always get the recognition. But Alex was great. Prior to us hiring him, he had not won the two Macondo Awards, which is the equivalent of the Academy Awards in Colombia. He won those two back-to-back for two horror films. And yeah, he designed a majority of the creatures and the demon prosthetic makeups. And, I just gave him a few references here and there, and then he ran with it. And with our limited time, it was like we didn't have a lot of time to make changes, to be honest. We were on a time crunch, and I had to fly out there personally to Colombia, pick them up, and then fly back. So we had it in time, because if we were to ship it, it would take at least 2 to 3 weeks for it to arrive, and it was too risky. So it was better to fly out there personally. I did that. My other producer, Brent Trotter, did that as well, because we had to do 2 trips to bring them back. But he did mechatronics, which is something where you have like a green stick attached to each of the fetus creatures. There's various sizes. and there was triggers, and some of them required more than one operator, and it was green sticks because we could remove it in visual effects afterwards, and then redo the skin in those areas that it was removed. So there's a lot of stuff, but I was adamant about having creature prosthetics. I said, I mean, you know, I'm a horror fan. There's like, and I can't stand it when, and this is unfortunate. I do talk about this on other podcasts where I bring up The Thing, that was the John Carpenter's The Thing, and then there's the prequel The Thing that came out, you know, it was like 10 years ago, and they originally had prosthetics, but then they switched it to do a full CGI, and I literally cannot even watch that movie. I can't. I have to turn it off because I just don't buy into it. And so, I think for the horror fans, they crave things that are tangible, things you can touch and you can feel. And even for the actors on set, seeing these creatures that were there, that's crawling around or just whipping about, I mean, they're reacting to it genuinely. They're not trying to imagine something of what it could look like. And I'm, you know, holding up a piece of paper. This is what it looks like. And here's how it moves. And here's my hand. Imagine my hand is the creature. No, they're looking at it right there.
Right.
You know, and there's blood on the ground and there's blood coming off of them and slime and all that stuff. And, you know, they get to touch it and feel it. I mean, that to me, it helps. I mean, otherwise, what are we doing? Like, it's just, you know, if this is what the fans want, to me, it's like, give them what they want, you know? And yeah, we could have cut corners, you know, to make it like full CGI, but I was like, then what's I'm like, don't even do it. If I'm talking to myself, right? I'm like, Joe, don't even do it. So, yeah, so it was a must. There was no question about doing it or not. And luckily we found Alex Rojas and his team.
Yeah, and that's awesome because, I mean, you talk to any horror fan, and even if The Thing isn't their favorite horror movie, they're going to speak about it in high esteem, and a big chunk of that is how phenomenal those practical effects are. I think, like you said, anyone doing horror, go to the practical route. There's some horror movies I've seen where it's like they CGI the blood and stuff, and it takes you out of it, because even that, you're like, why can't that have been practical, you know? So it makes me so happy just to hear how important that was to your team to get it right, you know. And I think it's definitely going to pay off in that sense as well. And just a couple minutes ago, you mentioned Brent Trotter, your producer, right?
Yeah, he's one of our producers. Yeah,
one of the producers. So, is he the one who's currently working on a sci-fi movie called Ex Gratia?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be helping him with that. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, you know, what capacity are you going to be involved with that project? Because it's a sci-fi thing, and, you know, I'm under the impression that you do like sci-fi. So are you just coming on as a producer, or are you doing anything extra to help that?
Whatever he needs, to be honest. You know, he did a lot of work with the Fetus. A lot of work that he was okay with not accepting payment for. And I told him, you know, I appreciate that, but I'm not okay with that. And I wasn't able to get approval for, you know, paying him a whole bunch of money. We did pay him for, you know, here and there for some work, of course, but the amount of time spent, myself and him on this project, is immeasurable. And so I'm going to do the same thing for him that he did for me, you know, in terms of working on Ex Gratia. So, yeah, so it's my way of paying him back in that way, because that's going to be more valuable to him as well, you know. So, you know.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to, you know, not just treat it like work when you're working on a project. You work as a team, and sometimes that collaboration, at least what everybody would hope so, is you branch that collaboration out from just that one project you're on. So it's great that you guys had that. And to also shout out Brent, He was the composer and he did sound design for the Fetus.
Well, he did the music which is he selected license-free music for it, so he didn't compose it.
Okay.
That's just another cost-saving area that we decided to go with, because he watches like almost every horror movie. He's like more of a horror fan than I am.
Right.
And so, I let him run with it. Yeah, I would have gotten a composer otherwise, or I would have been the one selecting the music, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's still really cool to have just have people on your team that are so multifaceted. Because when it comes to these smaller scale productions, you want people that could wear multiple hats, right? So I think that's really great there. And you mentioned September for the release of it. Are you doing like a theatrical at all? Is it going to be VOD? What's the plan there for September?
We were actually in a few theaters in Texas and I think Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it was a very short run, just a couple weeks. But then, because we were self-distributing, then we got a distributor on board and an international sales agent. And so they're the ones that decided, okay, September 9th will be the digital release. And they have access to a lot of other platforms, up to 60 platforms that they can put it on, far more than we could. And that's why there's a long delay. But now, if you think about it, it may not be a long delay if you think back to like back in the 90s, when traditionally movies, it took like 6 to 9 months from theater to going on to different, platforms or a cable, or DVD. And so it's just everything's been so shortened now that people are conditioned for it to come out right away. People, they have to wait, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it gives us the time, like I said, like for me to finish the book and do other things and or like redo our marketing strategy to gear up for it. It's going to be 1 month of a marketing push before the release. So
awesome. Yeah. So right around August, you're going to kick into the marketing gear then?
Yep. Yeah.
Sweet. And the good thing, well, one, sometimes it's a luxury to have some time to get something out. And two, I mean, September, the following month is October. So kind of getting this out there, coming up to Halloween time, I think that's always a benefit. Because between September and October, that's when the horror craze starts to kind of boot up again, so to speak. So I think that could also work to the benefit of the project.
Yeah, we just didn't want to open in October because I've heard last October 80 horror films launched in that month, and I was like, okay, that's just crazy.
Yeah, so get yourself a little head start before it goes in. That's a really good point. And I had heard in a I think it was an interview you did after one of your screenings where you mentioned that the plot of the Fetus was kind of having some themes around the conversation of like pro-choice and I've noticed, I haven't seen the documentary. I think it's called Hospital for Cure. It was about the transitioning process of a hospital in particular. That's a documentary you did, correct?
Yeah, that's a documentary I did. Never released it.
Oh, it was never released.
Yeah, it's never released because the interviewees, I interviewed 50 people and then I only followed a few of them. They didn't like what they shared before they went through this transformation program to turn the hospital around. They were all happy afterwards, but then when they saw the documentary, they're like, "Oh, it doesn't." When you do something like that, you're capturing somebody who's like not in a positive state of mind, so they are sharing things, and then once they've transformed, and the whole organization of 400 employees in the hospital transforms for the better, they kind of want to leave that in the past, So if I were to release it, and someone sees it and they're trying to go find a job in another hospital, someone could see that, it could affect their livelihood and things like that, and so, yeah, so we kind of just left it at that. And the husband and wife couple who originally did this they were going to use it to transform like 1,000 hospitals, but then they decided not to. So they just changed their plan. So they weren't going to use it for the intended original purpose anyway. So
are they still in the, like, are they still doing that, just not with the route of the documentary?
No, they're not.
Oh,
no,
so they're just done
that.
trying to transform hospitals
They're
then?
kind of retired, and they're, stuff like that. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's fair. And then we talked about it a little bit ago about Fugitive Zero being, it's a statement a little bit about the prison system. So I know sci-fi, we see a lot of this, but how important is it for you to kind of pull from real life problems and moral dilemmas when it comes to writing anything, really?
Oh yeah, they say write what you know.
No.
I would adjust that and say write what's painful to you. Write what you feel. Knowing is one thing. Like I know the sun comes up. Am I going to write about that? Right? I know there's like a bunch of countries around the world. Am I going to just write about that? These are facts, right? Knowing things that you feel, pain that you've experienced and that you've overcome. That's the place that I write from, because that transference is going to affect people at a deeper level than stuff that's on the surface, or like the constant like remakes that are coming out. That's, to me, it's a lot of surface level stuff that more power to the filmmakers, if they want to do that, great. But a lot of times when I watch those movies, it doesn't affect me at a deep level, because it's borrowing too much, leveraging too much on something that was done really well before, and they're using that, to help get the eyeballs, the attention, the monetization, for the remake version. Now if the writers or the filmmakers involved, if they are taking things that are affected them deeply and they're infusing that into these sequels, and it works, then I'm like, okay, great, no problem. Or remakes, I'm sorry, sequels are different,
right?
Then I'm like, great, and then it's something that is powerful and transformative and can affect people, but if it's just surface level stuff, and I can't watch movies that are surface level because I study screenwriting, storytelling, that if it's not done well, I either just fall asleep or I have to turn it off. It's unfortunate. It's ruined my enjoyment of a moviegoer, to be honest. So.
Yeah, and I really love how you said it too. Not write what you know, but write what pains you, because that's absolutely going to bring out a more raw emotional angle to whatever you're going for, and that's always going to feel more authentic.
Yeah, and I'll share something with you, which is my screenwriting teacher that transformed my writing. He shared with me that he wrote for the studios for 11 years. It's only one film that made it out, which is considered like one of the worst like sci-fi movies, or one of the even worst movies ever, unfortunately. He made a lot of money writing for the studios. His agent told him, you need to write something from your heart. Otherwise, your career is going to end. It's going to end badly. And he was afraid to go there. He was afraid to dig down deep and pull that out. So he was avoiding it. So he could write all these great things for the studios and for A-list actors, but they wouldn't get made. And so he was like more surface level stuff. I'm coming from the place where, and he recently told me, he was like, Joe, like he saw my writing recently after several years. He said, there's a demand for writers at the $75,000 level. And then the next level up is the $500,000 level. He was kind of telling me like, you're getting close to this $75,000 level. And I told him flat out, I said, I have no interest in writing for the studios. And what it means is I'm not a writer for hire. I'm sticking to my guns as a writer director. That's who I am at my core. and I'm going to write things that pain me. So if I'm a writer for hire, I'm going to be presented with stories from the studios that say, we want you to write this or fix this, touch up this screenplay that we have. That to me, I mean, I can do it. I can make the money, but there's a big chance, my fear is that I would start to get swayed towards that. And I'm just making a whole bunch of money, and I'm not telling the stories that are inside of me that I feel need to come out, which is the things that I've experienced in life that pain me, in that I wanted to not share with others, but share in a way that they can, like I said, transform as a result of the film experience, And so, and I'm taking the opposite route that he took, and that's why I share that story. I'm not here for the money. I'm here for the fans, strictly here for the fans, the audiences that I want to affect.
Yeah, and once you kind of, you could be passionate and you could be a part of that studio system, but to your point, once you're kind of churning out multiple things at once for the money, you lose that passion and you just become like a writer mill, right? You're just a mill and you're just kind of churning these things out, and you lose the love of the game. And I think that that's scary for any writer to go through, because I imagine that every writer starts off with that heart, and just over time, depending on what you do with it, you lose it. And I think it's great that your plan is to maintain that and hold on to it.
That's why I'm a huge fan of James Cameron, writer director. Yeah, he's written for screenplays for other filmmakers, or he's like sold them. That's fine. Or Quentin Tarantino, both writer directors. And if you have filmmakers who are listening, they're looking to get their careers going, I would say to them, who do you emulate? Look at what they do, and try to do what they do, because otherwise you can easily get lost. You can easily get distracted. And I had Brent recently. I'll share with you. He was about to get distracted from another project instead of Ex Gratia, that he was going to go and he's like, I'm going to go pitch this to studios and this and that. And it was a documentary series. It wasn't even a movie. And that's a big distraction. And he was avoiding, this thing that he really loves. And I understand, because I've been there. I've gone the other way before, but I had to come back. But you can lose a lot of time by doing that. Like, just the easy thing, it's right there. It's so easy. You can just do it. The hard thing is here, but this is what you love, absolutely love. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's important to manage that and not lose sight of it. You get distracted and boom, there it goes. That magic that you might have captured, be gone.
Yep.
So I like to bookend I like to start and I like to bookend my interviews with the same question. So for the end here, I want to ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And this could be professionally, personally, but 5 years from now, what do you see?
Just as a filmmaker?
Yeah. Either way, yeah. You could answer it either way.
Yeah, I'll focus on filmmaking, because I have other endeavors that I do as well.
Right.
I am continuing as a writer-director. I am raising the funds so I can maintain control as much as possible. And there's a possibility of pitching to some mid-level size studios for projects. Each project will depend on the requirements and the partnerships and collaborations. It has to work for the story. I am 100% in service of the story, which is in turn in service of the audience. And I don't want anything to get in the way of that. So it matters less about, making money, paychecks and all that. Yes, it's great. Everybody needs to get paid, but I would rather leave something behind that will last long after I'm gone, that's going to continue to affect and benefit people for years and years to come.
Right. I think that's a great thing to strive for. Important. So before I let you go, if there's anything that you want to plug here, if there's like a social media handle, obviously we've got the Fetus coming out soon. Just want to give you the floor for another second here, just so you could plug anything that you want.
Yeah, if your listeners want to learn more about our film, The Fetus, which stars Bill Moseley and LaVera, and a lot of other cast members, great cast members, go to thefetusfilm.com. We also have offers for merch, where you can get posters, t-shirts, hats, mugs, and I offer some free gifts. That is a free postcard of either Lauren LaVera or Bill Moseley on there, and also some digital products along with it. And you want to follow us on social media, it's anything that's at The Fetus Film. That goes for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, TikTok. And we go to horror conventions. So if you go to our webpage, thefetusfilm.com, go to our events page. We are going to ramp up doing more horror conventions after September. So we'll be coming to a city near you. And yeah, so, and any questions, your followers can also message actually myself on our website and our contact page, or on our social media, and somebody will respond. We're always dedicated to responding to the fans. So
awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Joe, it was a pleasure meeting you. And like I've said already, I'm so excited to check out The Fetus. I think it's going to be a great time.
Well, Sean, thank you so much. I appreciate you for interviewing me and for supporting horror films, because we need people like you to get the word out, because we don't have the big budgets like the studios. And of course, please send me your address. I'm going to send you some merch as well.
Oh, okay? Awesome. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you.